of the Syrian Arab Army eliminate terrorist gatherings in the suburbs of Damascus and Daraa as scores of gunmen killed in Aleppo, Homs and Quneitra. The Lebanese army liberates 7 of its soldiers kidnapped earlier in Arsal and kills 16 gunmen. Car explosions in Iraq kill more than 51 people as Daesh terrorists were pushed back south of Mosul.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. In Damascus countryside, Syrian Arab Army units have targeted terrorist gatherings in Beit Tima and the agricultural facility in Khan al-Sheikh farms, killing and wounding a large number of them. The Syrian Arab Army has killed and wounded terrorists, some of whom carried the Lebanese nationality and others belonging to terrorist organizations like the so-called the Islamic Front, the Islam's Brigade, and Al-Ghouta Lions Brigade in eastern Ghouta, Al-Qalamoun and Az-Zabadani in Damascus suburbs. The Syrian Arab Army also eliminated armed men in the outskirts of Al-Mleha, the surroundings of Tamiko Company and Al-Nashabiyya farms. Other terrorists were killed in an operation by the Syrian Arab Army against a terrorist organization's hideout in Ain Tarma Valley. Several terrorists were also killed or wounded by Syrian Arab Army soldiers in Al-Quneitra suburb, particularly in Othania village. The car they used in their criminal act was destroyed. A number of armed men were moreover killed or wounded in 7 villages in Homs. A car carrying terrorists was also destroyed in a farm northeast of Palmyra. The Syrian Arab Army units also targeted terrorist hideouts in a number of quarters in the districts of Aleppo and its suburbs. The Syrian Arab Army eliminated many of them and destroyed the cars they used in their criminal acts. Other Syrian Arab Army units destroyed 2 cars loaded with weapons and killed several terrorists in Arbid and 3 other districts in Aleppo countryside. In Idlib suburbs, several terrorists were killed or wounded and their machine gun provided cars were destroyed when their gatherings were targeted in 4 villages in As-Sirmaniya, Al-Qaqus, Sheikh Sindian and Qastal al-Buruj. Welcome back. The Lebanese army has been able to liberate 7 of its soldiers who had been kidnapped by terrorists in the village of Arsal in Al-Biqa province, following clashes during which 16 armed men were killed. This followed the agreement reached to extend the ceasefire truce in Arsal till this evening. Meanwhile, civilians continue to be evacuated from the village and relief cars have kept arriving in the area since the early hours of the morning. In Tripoli, north of Lebanon, the hotbed of Al-Mustaqbal gangs, an explosive device was detonated in Mahallet al-Khannaq at one of the city's entrances, wounding 9 people. In Iraq, an official source at Ninawa Governorate said that so-called ISIS terrorists withdrew from Makhmur district in the southeast of Mosul with no fighting taking place. Meanwhile, the number of people killed following a series of terrorist explosions in the capital Baghdad has risen to 51. The Iraqi police said that 31 people killed following the 2 car explosions in Al-Sadr crowded neighborhood in Baghdad. 11 other people were killed following another terrorist explosion in Ur area adjacent to Baghdad. At least 70 Iraqis were killed as a result of these terrorist attacks. A delegation of the Syrian Arab community in France has arrived at Martyr Bassel Al-Assad Airport in Latakia in a trip called In Your Lab, Syria, on board a Syrian Arab Airlines plane. The trip is aimed to convey a message of defiance, challenging all forms of siege and unjust sanctions imposed on the Syrian Arab Airlines establishment and in support of the Syrian national economy. Dr. Rima Khlefawi, a coordinator of the trip, said, "This initiative is an expression of the belief of the Syrian community in France and other European countries in their homeland Syria in the face of the pressures and conspiracies they are exposed to through their contribution to lifting the blockade imposed on the Syrian airlines, supporting national economy, encouraging tourism in Syria, and enhancing the social ties among the people of the same homeland." The expatriates referred to the Syrian people's state of steadfastness, which helped to a large extent change the image about the reality of events in Syria, as the European society and the Western media have thus started to discover that what is happening in Syria is a conspiracy with colonialist, Zionist greed standing behind it. They underlined the importance of the role of the expatriates in acquainting the Western public opinion with their nation's issues. The itinerary of the 50-member delegation of Syrian expatriates includes a visit to touristic and historical sites in Syria. Finally, on the occasion of President Bashar al-Assad's swearing in for a new presidential term, the Minister of Interior, in cooperation with the Civil Foundation of Syrian Youth, organized a march for the athletes and horse riders of the ministry, during which the participants toured several streets and squares in Damascus.
The athletes and horse riders of the Interior Ministry toured Damascus streets carrying the Syrian flag in a show of solidarity with the homeland and in an expression of allegiance to Syria's firm national principles.
This is a celebration honoring President Al-Assad swearing in for a new presidential term. We wanted to show that our country will remain safe despite all attempts by terrorists to inflict havoc and destruction, and we are determined to commit ourselves to Syria's national values.
The horse march started at Damascus International Fairground and headed towards Al-Hijaz Square, crossing into Al-Marj, historical public square, in which police, athletes and horse riders performed acrobatic movements on horsebacks called collecting wedges, capturing the spectators' attention and interest.
We represent the athletes and horse riders of the Ministry of Interior, and we came here wearing our uniform and carrying national flags to express our joy and happiness for President Bashar al-Assad's new term in office.
The Minister of Interior, Major General Muhammad al-Sha'ar, honored the officers and athletes of the Interior Ministry, praising their efforts to protect the country and combat terrorism.
The Ministry of Interior stresses the importance of performing its national duties and protecting the homeland against all terrorist attempts to spread chaos and instability. We are determined to fight the terrorists wherever they are, and all the Syrian people stand behind President Bashar al-Assad's leadership for the sake of achieving victory against Syria's enemy.
With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Genjan, but after a short break.